All right, now that we've got a good idea of what's going on, let's start to implement this kind of approach. We're going to first take care of one of those checkboxes. So we're going to make sure that each of our different checkbox elements has an event handler assigned to it. Whenever a user changes the value of a checkbox by clicking on it, we're going to store that value, either yes, we want to include letters, or no, we don't in the final password, as a property on our component class. So let's get to it. We'll first take care of the use letters checkbox right here. So we need to make sure that we add an event handler to that thing and detect anytime it gets changed. Now, just so you know, us ticking that thing and unticking it is referred to as a change event. That is the name of the event that is triggered anytime we change it. I'm going to go back over to my editor, and I'm going to find my component template file. Here it is right here. I'm then going to scroll down to the label that says use letters. I'll find the input tied to it, and then we will add an event handler to it. So remember, this is the event binding syntax. The event binding syntax, as we discussed just a moment ago, right here, uses the parentheses. And then inside the parentheses, we put the name of the event that we want to watch for. So on this input, I will add in some parentheses, and I'll say I want to watch for the change event. And then whenever that occurs, I want to run a method that I'm going to define on my component class instance. So I'll call the method, how about onChange use letters. We have not yet defined that method. We're going to have to change or define it right now. So I'm going to save this file. I'll go back over to my component class instance. Inside of here, I'll find my component class. And then inside of it, I'm going to define that method that we just tried to call. So onChange, what do we call it? Use letters. So now, as you would guess, anytime that we change that input right there, anytime we tick it or untick it, that method is going to be called. So as we just discussed, and as we were just looking at that diagram a moment ago, we now need a property on our class to record whether or not that thing is checked or not. So on my class, I'm going to add in an additional property. I'm going to call it, how about include letters? And I'm going to give it a default or initial starting value of false. So by default, we are not including any letters inside of our generated password. So then anytime that onChange use letters gets called, I will update the value of include letters. So I'll say this dot include letters is going to be equal to the opposite of whatever it currently is. So notice the exclamation there, this dot include letters. Now to test this out, let's go down to on button click. Remember, that gets called anytime we click on that submit button. Inside there, I'm going to add in a console log of this dot include letters. So we will try ticking that checkbox and unticking it and clicking that button a couple times and just verifying that we've got the correct value stored on our component class instance. Okay, so I'm going to save this file. I'm going to flip back over. I'm going to click on generate right away, and I'll see that by default, use letters is false. If I then check that thing, so the use letters checkbox in particular, and then click on generate again, it's now been flipped to true. And then finally, if I uncheck it and generate again, it is back to false. So we're definitely keeping track of that property correctly. All right, so now we need to repeat that same process for the other two checkboxes as well. I would like you to try to take care of this on your own. So this is going to be a little exercise. It is 100% optional. So if you don't want to do this on your own, no problem. Just skip over to the next video and I'll show you exactly how to do it. Otherwise, go ahead and try to add in an event handler to these other two checkboxes. You'll need to go through the exact same process of what we just did inside this video. You'll find the appropriate inputs. You'll add on the change event handler. You'll call a method. You'll need to make sure that you add a method to the component class. You'll need to make sure you add in a new property to track whether or not to include the numbers and symbols and so on, and update that property inside the appropriate method. So once again, go ahead and give it a shot on your own. If you don't want to do it, no problem. Just skip on over to the next video. So quick pause, and we'll go over a solution in just a moment.